Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight live on KMTV. I'm Megan Shaw and here are your top stories on Wednesday the 21st of January. Declared deceased. A man has died after injuries at a Sittingbourne construction site.
And I'll be here outside the business park to tell you everything we currently know about the incident.
Sheppey stabbing update. Man appears in court accused of murdering father in Noreen Avenue.
Welcome
And from
to the
care
House of
home
Deceit.
to scare home. Whitstable House is transformed into the House of Deceit, inspired by the BBC show The Traitors. Our top story tonight. A man has died at a construction site in Sittingbourne, with police spotted at the industrial estate earlier this morning. The Eurolink V Industrial Park is home to a building site where the emergency services were called after a man was treated for serious injuries and later died at the scene. And our reporter Finn McDermott is down at the industrial park now to tell us more. So Finn, I can see you're down there now. What more have you got to tell us about this?
Well, Meg, we haven't got too many details at this stage. Like you mentioned, the incident occurred this morning. We had a reporter down here who took some photographs of some of those emergency vehicles that arrived around just 9:15. Before we start, I want to say the weather is quite poor out here, so apologies for any interference there. But in terms of what we do know, the facts are that a man in his 30s was declared dead at a construction site near a large industrial estate, and that's where I am now at the Eurolink V Industrial Park near Sittingbourne. Police, like I mentioned, were spotted near this area of the industrial park, near the frozen ready meal company's building of Cook Classic, and their nearby building site where police were attending to that incident. Now, officers shut part of the road and they also shut part of that construction site where work was going on to build a new cold storage logistics facility to store and distribute some of their frozen meals. They were later joined by fire crews and paramedics, and later we did in fact hear that they responded to an incident where someone had a severe injury and that the person was declared dead at the scene.
I see. Thank you for those details so far, Finn, as I'm sure more details are coming out. What have you also heard from the authorities and also the company as well? Do we have any updates on that?
Absolutely. Well, as I mentioned, the police were called to the scene earlier and did eventually confirm that a man was declared deceased at the scene. A spokesperson for the police said a man was treated for serious injuries and later declared deceased at the scene. His next of kin have also been informed, and they also told us that the health and safety executive have been notified. You mentioned that the company, Cook Classic, said, "We are deeply saddened by the tragic loss of life at the construction site for our new logistics centre." They added, "Our thoughts are with the family, friends and colleagues of the individual at this extremely difficult time." They went on to say the relevant authorities and the construction company are continuing their investigation into what happened and they can't comment any further at this time. We also spoke to the fire service. They said they were called to the site at 9:41, around 26 minutes after the police were there to assist the police with one fire engine in attendance. The Health and Safety Executive, or HSE, said that they were aware of the incident and are currently working with Kent Police. We also approached Winvic Construction Company for comment, but we have not heard anything specifically back from them. But as I mentioned, this is a relatively new incident, and as Kent Police are continuing their investigations with the company and the relevant executives like HSE, we'll only find out more details about exactly what's happened here as we get them.
Thank you, Finn. And as you said, we'll be following that story as it continues. Finn McDermott there. Next, a man appeared in court today accused of a brutal attack on his father on the Isle of Sheppey. 23-year-old William Hepworth stands accused of murdering his father, Timothy, in the stabbing attack last Saturday. Floral tributes and written notes have been left at the door of the victim's home. William appeared at Maidstone Crown Court via video link today for the preliminary hearing, and reporter Chloe Brewster is here with me now to tell us all about it. So Chloe, of course, this is quite the shocking story here, so can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, so as you said, William Hepworth was charged with murder, and that happened pretty soon after the alleged murder took place last Saturday. So the victim is said to have been stabbed 26 times, leading to his death in the street on Sheppey, with the prosecution arguing that William had run up to him in the street before attacking him. And it makes it even more shocking thinking about how this street was pretty close to a children's play park as well. This took place at around 6:30 with officers and paramedics called to the road. But despite life-saving efforts, 59-year-old Timmy unfortunately passed away at the scene. The suspect, as I said, was arrested soon afterwards, and it's worth noting he was from a different address in Sheppey. He was from Alma Road. It's also worth noting that William wanted to be called Bill Rock during the proceedings rather than use that Hepworth surname that he shared with his father.
I see, and obviously he appeared in court today for that preliminary hearing, so when will we hear the outcome?
Yes, so this was a preliminary hearing, so it was just the prosecution sort of outlining their case. Hepworth's next hearing will be on Tuesday, April 21st for plea and trial preparation, those sorts of things. No application for bail has been made, so he will sit in custody at HMP Elmley on Sheppey for at the moment. His trial is provisionally set to start on July 6th, so we'll have to wait a bit of time until that gets underway and we can learn a little bit more about what happened here.
I see. Thank you, Chloe, for bringing us that story, and of course we'll be following that as closely as we can, as of course it unfolds there. Next, a Broadstairs family is left heartbroken after their French bulldog has disappeared from their garden. Bronson, the 8-month-old pup, was reported missing by his family after himself and another dog were let into the garden around 10:30 p.m. on January the 20th. Claire Norwell, Bronson's owner, says that her 5-year-old daughter, Abby, has been left heartbroken and out of her mind following the disappearance. The family allege that Bronson may have been stolen, as the heavy garden fence has been left with marks, as you can see on the screen there. They are now working with police to find him and urge anyone with information to contact them. Next, drivers are upset after Ashford Borough Council has decided to offer free parking, but only for electric cars. The new scheme will be trialled for 6 months at Vicarage Lane, a 185-space site that generated more money for the council than any other spot in the 2023 to 2024 period. The scheme will be trialled in hopes of encouraging greener driving habits. However, many drivers find the new scheme to be unfair, feeling as though everyone should pay the same price, regardless if their vehicle is petrol, diesel or, of course, electric. And now, a 23-year-old Sheppey prison guard has been sentenced to 3.5 years for having relations with an inmate. Isabel Dale, a prison guard at HMP Swaleside, was jailed on the 20th of January after she was found to be having a sexual relationship with prison inmate Shahid Sharif. In July 2022, the pair were seen entering a multi-faith room together and stayed in there while 2 other prisoners stood guard. And later evidence was found in explicit messages between the two. Dale has been charged with 2 counts of misconduct in a public office and 1 count of conspiring to convey a List A article into the prison. And now, Kent was treated to another Aurora display on Monday and Tuesday night, and some keen photographers were out to capture the colourful display. The Aurora Borealis, or the Northern Lights, occur when charged particles from the sun mix with gases in the Earth's atmosphere around the magnetic poles. The Met Office says we can expect these storms a few times a year, but it's especially rare in the south of England, and our community reporter Henry Luck has been looking more into this.
Photographers in the coastal regions of Kent were treated to a brilliant display of the aurora. One resident managed to get this picture at Recluva Towers near Herne Bay, and he said the lights were beautiful. Nearby in Margate, another resident saw the aurora at around 20 to 7 and managed to get photos of the vibrant colours over the sea. According to Met Office's Space Weather Manager, this is a G4 geomagnetic storm which produces aurora in parts of the UK with good visibility, which could be seen as far as northern Italy, similar in scale to another storm that occurred in November last year. The Met Office expects storms of this magnitude to take place a few times a year at this point in the solar cycle, so it looks like Kent is primed and ready to capture the aurora any time it shines. Henry Luck for KMTV.
And those images there are beautiful. But now time for a short break. But coming up, we've got plenty more. We'll be joined by Dr. Julian Spinks to discuss the most recent medical news across the county, including cervical cancer awareness. We'll also be joined by Kent Film Club presenter Chris Deasy and plenty more. But we'll catch you later after the break. We'll see you then. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight live on KMTV. And after all that talk about the Northern Lights, what else we'll be able to see in our skies over the coming days? Well, let's take a look at the weather forecast. We've got a moderate amount of wind and rain tonight, temperatures around 9 degrees across the entire county, winds travelling towards the northwest between 12 and 17 miles per hour into the tomorrow morning, slightly overcast, cool temperatures 8 degrees affecting most of the county, and into the afternoon 10 degrees across the board, light showers, especially in Dover. And your outlook, we're rainy on Friday at 9 degrees, Saturday staying the same but sun peeking through, overcast on Sunday and dropping down to 6 degrees Celsius. And a number of leaks continue to cause more water woes in Kent. South East Water has confirmed that those living in East Farley have been experiencing ongoing supply issues with no water or low pressure due to a non-visible leak in Toville near Maidstone. And senior reporter Cara Simmons from Kent Online is here to talk with me now to hear more about it. So, Cara, you're joining me on the sofa. You've been following this story, as has everyone across Kent over the past week or so. So what's happened so far?
Well, I mean, these issues have been going on for weeks and weeks now, and I'm sure so many residents are sick and tired of hearing that there's been another water outage. Last week, we were reporting on the fact that Tunbridge Wells and areas across Kent, thousands of people were without water, although most of these issues have been covered now.
And are there any current outages in the county?
Yes, so like you said, South East Water reported that there are homes in East Farley without water. This is due to a leak in Toville, which is near Maidstone, and there's a team from South East Water that are currently locating the leak. They're planning on shutting the road so that they can do an emergency repair. Elsewhere, there are also problems in Farkham Road in Tunbridge Wells. That's a place that obviously knows a lot about water outages. We have Maidstone Road in Matfield in Tunbridge. People have experienced supply issues since yesterday. That is due to a burst main. South East Water have apologised for the disruption and that they say that they're working around the clock to fix it.
I see, and I bet it's the last thing that residents might need after already quite a stressful week or fortnight. And tonight there's also a public meeting in Tunbridge Wells to discuss the ongoing water crisis. So what can people expect from this then?
Yeah, so there's a meeting tonight which is being held by Dry Wells Action Group, and that is at the Old Auction House in Tunbridge Wells. The group says that they want to discuss why the community has experienced repeated and lengthy water outages, why regulators and government have not taken enforcement action against the company, and what the community should do to ensure that it's never again left unable to wash or flush toilets for days at a time. They've invited South East Water, water regulators and council officials to the meeting, and our own reporter will be there at the scene as well.
I see. Thank you so much, Cara, and it's definitely something that we're keenly got our eye on over at KMTV and Kent Online, and we'll be following that as developments come through. Now, don't forget, you can keep up to date with all your latest stories across Kent by logging onto our website, kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find reports like this one, where a Chatham woman uses her mouth to make jewellery after sustaining injuries in the Bosnian War.
It's an extensive collection, but what if I told you these were all handmade by a woman who can't use her hands? Kat from Chatham has lived more lives than many, with injuries sustained in the Bosnian War as a teenager, leaving her paralysed in later life.
Now, I'm sure we can all imagine how difficult and fiddly it is to make jewellery. Well, imagine doing that with your mouth. Over the years, Kat has made more than 1,000 pieces of handmade silver, gold and cosmetic jewellery. I'm wearing just a few of her pieces, and as you can see, they're really intricate. There's some with gems on, some have stones in, and all of this has been done from her bedroom.
So I will sit in the right position and the table will be in front of me. And I could then pick up the tools myself, like I could pick up this. And so this, let's say this is my tool. And then sometimes I will place the tool there, just as a support, because obviously I can't grip.
Kat was unable to show us her in action because last year, after 15 years as a jeweller, she had to sell her equipment. Soon she will be blind, after suffering from a number of health issues stemming from spending several years as a prisoner of war, and will soon no longer be able to practice her many creative pursuits which she sees as a lifeline.
For me, it was just to give me something to do. It kept my mind upbeat. Because of so much that's happened, this is kind of kept, I can do something. I'm here. I'm not an invisible person, and it makes me feel like I'm a normal human being. Yeah, I may not be able to walk, I may not be able to run with my children, I may not be able, and soon I will be blind, fully blind.
The jewellery here are the last of her creations she still has to sell, and each Saturday she opens her family home to potential customers. But when the inevitable comes, Kat has plenty more ideas to keep herself going and remain positive.
I teaching myself now to make non-silver jewellery, like bracelets over there and necklaces, like semi-precious stone bracelets and stuff like that.
And it's through creating things for other people to have that allows Kat to find the silver lining to her condition. Megan Shaw for KMTV in Chatham.
And now, January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. And so to talk about when to identify this, as well as general health news, our health expert, Dr. Julian Spinks, joins us now. So, Julian, recently a woman in Ashford underwent a full hysterectomy at just 34 due to cervical cancer. So what does a hysterectomy procedure entail?
Well, that means removing the womb together with the cervix, which is the neck of the womb. They may preserve the ovaries. I don't know what happened in this case, but it's pretty severe treatment that you require, and they're having to do that because obviously the cancer had advanced. Unfortunately, some people don't come forward for screening, and they have reasons. They may be scared about the screening process or even scared about the result of it. But we have ways of actually preventing people getting cancer, and the two things are human papilloma vaccine, which is the virus that can cause this, and then getting the sort of screening processes.
Absolutely. You mentioned those screening processes, and it was mentioned that she repeatedly put off her routine smear tests. So how important is it that people do turn up to these screening tests?
She does have my sympathy, because I put off things like going to the dentist. So, you know, we all do that sort of thing, but it is very important. If you have the screening done regularly, what happens is you detect the changes before they're cancerous. So you're not looking for cancer, you're looking for something that might become cancer. And effectively, you can prevent yourself getting cancer in the first place. If you leave it too long, it will move into being cancer, and then the treatment is more extreme, as unfortunately she found out.
And I couldn't help but notice, I personally think 34 is quite young to have cervical cancer, but is this something that only affects a certain age group, or is this not something particularly out of the ordinary?
Unfortunately, it's a cancer that can affect people who are younger. Famously, a few years ago, there was Jade Goody, who was famous for being on Big Brother, who died at 27 from this. So it isn't something like a lot of cancers, which is mainly middle age and older.
I see. And who can you speak to about potentially getting a hysterectomy procedure or checking for these certain cancers?
Well, the first thing to say is if you have any bleeding between periods or after sex, then you need to seek help. And the people to talk to is the GP. As far as screening is concerned, you should be recalled regularly. What we can't do is do an early screening because that system doesn't allow us to do it. But if there are suspicious features, we can refer you to the hospital to have other tests done.
I see. And speaking of GPs, pivoting slightly, obviously GPs now, they're more and more online, they're more and more electronic, and obviously that can speed up a lot of processes, but of course IT failures can happen. So how can people get in contact with their GPs when such things occur?
Well, we had one of these failures on Monday. And it affected all the practices in Kent and Medway, and none of them could do anything about it themselves because this was a failure outside the practices in the data storage places. And it made it very difficult. We had to shut down the online consulting system and so on. When something like that happens, sometimes we have to say to people, unless it's urgent, please don't come to us because we can't access their records, we can't look at the results and so on. However, if there's urgent need, then the old-fashioned ways, the telephone and walking into the practice, are available, so you're not completely left out in the dark.
Absolutely. And moving on again to the junk food ad ban that's been introduced by the government, which is to ban adverts around less healthy food and drinks before 9 p.m. And online as well at all times. So how could this impact children's diets moving forward from this?
Well, I think of this as almost like a step with the cigarette smoking as well. That what we don't want to be doing is advertising towards children and getting them in the direction of having an unhealthy diet. Because if you have that when you're a child, the likelihood is that will continue throughout your life. That'll increase your risk of being overweight, of having things like diabetes, heart disease, and so on. And ultimately can lead to ill health and a premature death. So we really want to perhaps persuade people to go to eating more healthily.
Absolutely. Of course, we kind of have that kind of a top-down approach there, but is there anything parents could also do to aid this, perhaps to encourage their children to eat a bit healthier?
Well, ultimately, the parents are the ones who are giving them the food. So if they can look and see whether they can move towards giving them healthier options, maybe doing home cooking rather than buying in ready meals or takeaways, all of those things will teach their children about eating healthily when they're young, and often that will carry forward.
I see Dr. Julian Spinks. Thank you so much for giving us all the latest on the health news that our residents need to know about. Thank you very much. And now it's time for another break, but stay tuned because afterwards we'll be returning to our top story where we talk to our reporter Finn McDermott about a man who died at a construction site in Sittingbourne this morning. All that and more after the break, but stay tuned because we'll catch you later. See you then. and welcome to Kent Tonight live on KMTV. I'm Megan Shaw and here are your top stories on Wednesday the 21st of January. Declared deceased. A man has died after injuries at a Sittingbourne construction site.
And I'll be here outside the business park to tell you everything we currently know about the incident.
Sheppey stabbing update. Man appears in court accused of murdering father in Noreen Avenue.
Welcome
And from
to the
care
House of
home
Deceit.
to scare home. Whitstable House is transformed into the House of Deceit, inspired by the BBC show The Traitors. But first, our top story tonight. A man has died at a construction site in Sittingbourne, with police spotted at the industrial estate earlier this morning. The Eurolink V Industrial Park is home to a building site where the emergency services were called after a man was treated for serious injuries and later died at the scene. And our reporter, Finn McDermott, is down at the industrial park to tell us more. So, Finn, you're on the scene there, so what more are you able to tell us about this?
Well, we've been hearing news of this incident throughout most of today. Firstly, when a reporter noticed there were multiple emergency vehicles at the scene here at the Eurolink V Industrial Park. And we've been getting more and more information throughout the day. But I should mention this is a relatively new incident. Like I say, it only happened this morning. So we don't have too many details at this stage, only what we know from different spokespeople and from the police themselves. So what we do know is that a man in his 30s was being treated for severe injuries at a building site near the Cook Classic building here at the industrial park. He later was pronounced deceased at the scene by police, paramedics and also the fire crew who were in attendance. The police were spotted here with a forensic investigation van at around 9:15 a.m. this morning, which is the area here is very close to Sittingbourne. Officers also shut part of the road and shut the nearby building site where the incident occurred. The building site is related to that Cook Classic company, with the building here behind me, as it's a new development for a logistics facility where they can store and distribute their frozen meals that they make. Like I mentioned, the police were later joined by fire crews and paramedics, and later on police did confirm that they were called to the industrial incident here at the construction site.
I see, and you mentioned the Cook Classic and the authorities, so have we heard anything from them yet? Obviously it's quite a new story as details are released. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, that is the case, that it's a very new story, so we don't have all the details. The police spokesperson said that a man was treated for serious injuries, later declared deceased at the scene. They also told us that the man's next of kin have been informed, and the health and safety executive have also been notified. We also heard from a spokesperson from Cook. They said, "We are deeply saddened by the tragic loss of life at the construction site for our new logistics centre." They went on to say, "Our thoughts are with the family, friends and colleagues of the individual during this incredibly difficult time." They went on to say that the relevant authorities and the construction company are continuing their investigations into what happened, and they can't comment any further at this current time. The fire service also told us they were called to the site 9:41 a.m, so not too long after.
Finn McDermott in Sittingbourne live there. Apologies for technical difficulties. And now, the A21 Tonbridge bypass has seen temporary crash barriers, installed, along with a brand new speed limit, after a dad of two crashed into a central reservation just before the A26 turn-off back in 2022. National Highways has confirmed a new 15-mile-per-hour speed limit, as well as cutting back the vegetation in the area and a temporary barrier that should ensure safety for motorists. These changes come after 8 similar accidents in the past 3 years, leading to a road restraint risk assessment process, as well as a safety study to prevent further accidents from taking place. Next, a Mini Cooper had to be rescued after it became stranded driving into a flooded ford by Ainsford Bridge in Dartford. 2 fire engines and a water safety unit were sent at around 12:30 p.m. to retrieve the car from the carriageway opposite the Plough Inn pub off of Station Road. Ambulance crews were also called but were stood down and no injuries were reported. The fire service are reminding people not to drive or walk through flooded water. They say it can often be deeper than it looks and there may be hazards hidden beneath the surface. Now, don't forget, you can keep up to date with all your stories across Kent by logging onto our website, kmtv.co.uk, and also keep up to date with our socials as well. There, you'll find all our reports, including this one about a local gym owner in Medway. And he gave us some advice on how to stay consistent in our goals for the New Year's, because I'm definitely slacking on mine. So here's Maisie Walker.
A New Year's resolution is a personal promise or goal people set at the start of a year to improve themselves. These resolutions often focus on building positive habits, breaking bad ones, or working toward personal growth. However, many people abandon their resolutions within just a few weeks.
Now, my New Year's resolution was to stay active, but how easy is it to actually stay motivated?
This is actually a really big problem because the gym is a scary place. If it's not your comfortable environment and you're stepping into a gym with hundreds or even thousands of people there potentially, it is overwhelming. You are going to feel uncomfortable. So my best piece of advice would either get a gym buddy you can go with, maybe visit quieter times if you can, or even go down the road of a personal trainer or things like we do here, like group coaching, where you're with, a qualified professional and they can help build your confidence in the gym so then you can potentially go on and do it yourself in the future. The biggest thing is when people join the gym in January, they're highly motivated because it is January. That motivation is a very fleeting emotion, so it comes and goes. And I think as soon as people maybe understand that you're not going to be motivated all the time, and then if you go to the gym when you're not motivated, I see that as disciplined. And that is actually what yields greater results than just relying on motivation alone.
I spoke with local residents of Rochester about their New Year's resolutions and how they're sticking to them so far.
To be a better person than I was last year, mind and body. I feel like it's something that even though you try to achieve, you won't till you let go in a way. Let go of something. For me, it's like I need to let go of past stuff to move on with my future.
It would be to have more education for myself and to enjoy my life.
To hit 180 kg on the bench press.
My New Year's resolution is to get fitter, even because I'm more conscious of my diet and my health, even at this ripe old age that I am. So yes, as much as I can possibly do, I want to do. So,
as for me, I'll keep working towards my own goal, completing 1 pull-up. But that's assuming I can ever reach the bar. Maisie Walker for KMTV, Rochester.
And next, you may see them running across your fence, stealing your garden bird food, or just jumping from tree to tree in your local park. But today actually marks Squirrel Appreciation Day 2026, a day to celebrate one of your most familiar urban wildlife neighbours. And Alia Pritchard has the story.
Did you know there are an estimated 2.7 million grey squirrels in the UK, and their population is continuing to grow? They live on a diet of nuts, seeds and berries and are a familiar sight in the UK woodland. Red squirrels disappeared from Kent's wildlife in the 1960s. However, Wildwood Trust have been breeding them in their Kent park in order to help reintroduce them to parts of the UK.
So grey squirrels are an invasive introduced species. They were first released into this country in Cheshire in the 19th century, and they have spread dramatically ever since. And of course, that's had quite an ecological impact. They damage trees, they predate bird nests, but most significantly of all, they've had a real impact on the red squirrel. They compete for food and habitat, but also significantly, they spread squirrel pox. The grey squirrels are immune, The red squirrels are not, and the red squirrels have retreated literally back to isolated pockets of the Highlands, parts of northern England, and islands where they are separate from the grey squirrels. Having said that, grey squirrels really do have a lot going for them, in the sense that they offer an important link with nature for so many people. They've adapted very well to our towns and cities, and particularly in our gardens, where they are very clever at accessing the food that we put out for birds. So even though they do create a lot of issues, they are really intelligent creatures that we should celebrate in our lives.
But how can you observe Squirrel Appreciation Day at home? You could set up a squirrel feeder, go to a park and watch them as they scamper across the ground. If it takes your fancy, you can squirrel watch instead of bird watch for the day, studying their behaviour, or even watch a documentary about them from your sofa. Although you could just look out the window, as they are known for visiting us in our gardens.
And now it's time for a short break. But coming up, don't go anywhere as we've got plenty more. We'll be taking a look at a couple who've turned their Whitstable home into a real-life traitors based on the BBC show. And we'll also be joined by Chris Deasy to discuss the recent film news, including the new film The Housemaid and also the upcoming awards season. We'll also be taking another look at what the weather has in store for us over the weekend and the coming days. So there's plenty more for you to stay tuned in for, and we'll catch you later with the rest of our broadcast. We'll see you then. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. And finally, from secret missions to banishments at the round table, the BBC show The Traitors has become one of the UK's biggest hits on your televisions. But now, fans of the show in Kent might not need to travel all the way to Scotland to live it out for themselves, as Kristen Hawthorne has visited a house in Whitstable who turned a residential care home into a house of deceit. This is Kristen here.
From the outside, it looks like a normal house in Whitstable. But step inside and it's a different story.
Welcome to the House of Deceit.
Inspired by the hit BBC show The Traitors, the house, which was once a care home, has been transformed to match the style of the mansion in Scotland. But where did it all start?
Last year, my mum became unwell, and I went to stay with her, and we got really stuck into watching Celebrity Traitors together. We really enjoyed it and bonded over it, and made sure that we religiously watched it, and it became a real appointment to view. I thought that it was quite a positive bonding experience, and immediately the idea went in my head, oh, we could host fun evenings at our house where people can come, stay in a big spooky house and play a game of deceit and strategy together.
But it's more than just a decorated house, as James has lots of ideas and experience in how to make the game immersive for those taking part.
Additionally, my background is in TV production, and I've worked on a lot of reality TV shows. Some are pretty tawdry and low rent, but the most famous of them is Big Brother. And I used to make games for Big Brother, and part of my job was to effectively wind people up, create tension, and exacerbate already existing undercurrents in people's relationship. And so when I've designed the House of Deceit, I've drawn on that experience. So it's going to elevate it from a silly, fun weekend into quite a tense and difficult strategy game.
One local fan even applied to be on the show.
I done my auditions in October 2024 and I got through to the first round. I remember it, you know, because I'm one of these characters that I'm quite good at telling a story, and I could sell ice to Eskimos. So I thought, as a traitor, I'd be really, really good.
If you love watching Traitors and you think you're up for the challenge yourself, you might not have to travel all the way to Scotland, and you can play your own game with your own friends here in Kent. So whether you're a traitor or a faithful, it might be time to conspire a plan for the House of Deceit. Kristen Hawthorne for KMTV, Whitstable.
And now let's take a look at the weather. We've got a moderate amount of wind and rain tonight. Temperatures across 9 degrees across the entire county. Winds travelling towards the northwest, speeds between 12 and 17 miles per hour. Tomorrow morning, overcast skies, slight cooling temperatures, 8 degrees across the county there, but 9 in Dover. In the afternoon, 10 degrees across the board. I can see rain there, so bring your umbrellas. And for your outlook, rain on Friday, 9 degrees. Saturday, a bit of sun peeking through, staying at 9. Overcast on Sunday and temperatures dropping to 6 degrees. Still a mild January. And I'm joined now by Chris Deasy to speak more about the films of the moment, as it were. So we've got the Housemaid, apologies there. So have you seen this film?
Well, it's funny you ask that because I've seen it. Do you want me to admit this? I've seen it 3 times.
Wow.
I've actually booked to see it again tonight. And I'll tell you why. It's very odd that you should bring that up because it's the sort of film, it's got so many twists, because we were just talking about The Traitors, so many twists in it that even when you know what the twist is, I have to go back to the beginning and watch it all again. And, you know, both the second and the third time, I still thought, surely it's not going to go the way that you know it will, because you're invested so much in the characters, and you think that people are acting in particular ways because they're nasty people or they've got some horrible trauma that they're dealing with, and then it turns out that the rug is taken out from under our feet. And that, I mean, it's like a throwback to all those 90s domestic thrillers, you know, like Single White Female or The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. I mean, in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, you know who the bad person is, you know the backstory. It's like the audience are complicit in that. But here, it's like the characters we least suspect know what's going on, and we only find out way after they do towards the end. It's actually a brilliant twist.
And I'll be honest, I've not actually seen the film, but there's been a lot of talk of it on social media, and lots of my friends have been speaking about it, and it already seems to have got a bit of an Oscar buzz. So what do you say about that?
Now, that's a good question, because films like this don't normally do well. I mean, the acting, I think, is tremendous. Now, the Golden Globes are normally the best indicator of what's going to happen in the Oscars, and it hasn't received any awards there. But then again, there was a film like Weapons, which has done really well commercially. It's a horror film, and that, I think, there's a dark horse there in the Best Supporting Actress stake. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like with My Cousin Vinny, which I know is Andy, our channel director's, one of his favourite films, going back to the early 90s, that film defied all expectations when it won a Best Supporting Actress Oscar for Marissa Tomei, despite having not been even nominated in any of the other awards categories, in the other award ceremonies. So you never know. But this film is still doing the rounds 4 weeks after it first came out. So there's a lot of audience support for this.
Yeah, and you mentioned that these kind of genres of films don't always, I suppose, win big at the awards, and maybe you wouldn't say horror's maybe a mainstream genre, but with the positive reviews this movie's going, and you know, people still talking about it a month later, do you think this could, I don't know, changing the tides to how perhaps horror or thrillers are received?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I remember when Ghost, you know, way back in 1990, well, 91 was the ceremony, when that won a screenplay Oscar and Whoopi Goldberg won Best Supporting Actress. Because back then it was thought, oh, this film's a little bit too lowbrow, it's not serious enough. It's more of a comedy, like a supernatural comedy, those sort of, a very unusual sort of hybrid. And it just goes to show Pretty Woman, another example from around that era, the sort of film that's really popular with an audience, but not necessarily the sort of film that you think would do well in the award stakes. And Julia Roberts, though she didn't win, she did a decade later for Erin Brockovich, she was nominated. So I wouldn't be surprised if there will be a few films up for Oscars this year that people will think that was a brilliant film, but you wouldn't necessarily expect it, because the critics maybe were a bit more snooty about it, but the audiences said, you know, this is our film, and you never know what might happen.
Absolutely. And speaking of Oscars, do you have any predictions? I
think it's almost a dead cert that Jessie Buckley will win Best Actress for Hamnet. Now, personally, I mean, I really liked Song Sung Blue, the Neil Diamond film. Kate Hudson, maybe she'll get a nomination, but I think it's Jessie Buckley's year. I remember when she was on that talent show, when she was going for the part of Nancy back in, 2008? And she came second, and now she's up for the biggest award there could be. But, you know, last year I was sitting in the same seat. We were talking about Demi Moore as not just the front runner, but the dead cert to win for The Substance. And she lost to Mikey Madison, who nobody was really talking about until just those, well, days almost before the Oscar ceremony. So you never know how it might go.
Absolutely. We mentioned there that some of the, I suppose, the big hits don't really score big at the Academy Awards. And I remember a couple of years ago, there was so much hype around, will Leonardo DiCaprio ever get his Oscar? So do you really think an Academy Award is a marker of a great film anymore?
I would say, no, for me, I'm a huge Martin Scorsese fan, and he was the biggest director never to win a statuette. But he arguably won it for a film that, though good, The Departed. It was a remake of a film that was made in a different language. It kind of almost felt like, is this really the best thing? He should have won for Goodfellas, should have won for Raging Bull, should have won for Taxi Driver. So once he got the award, suddenly it was like, oh, now he's won an Oscar, but maybe for the wrong film. So maybe if he'd never won an Oscar, his stature would be higher. Does that make sense? So it's almost as though sometimes winning the Oscar is great, but those people who, like Marilyn Monroe, never nominated, or Glenn Close. I think she's the only living actress. I think she's had like 8 or 9 nominations, never won. Peter O'Toole obviously passed away now, but he also had received something. He won an honorary award, but he'd had like 8 or 9 nominations, maybe more than that, and never won. So in a way, that's almost the stature in which some of those stars are placed. Whereas Meryl Streep's, I think she'd been nominated well over 20 times, but has actually won 3 awards.
Absolutely. So I suppose in that sense, it's still a mystery, I suppose, who we might be celebrating in not too long.
And it's more exciting that way because we go in, when it's a 2, or in some years, I remember it was 21 years ago, a 3-horse race. Certainly for Best Actor. Will it be Sean Penn? Will it be Bill Murray? Will it be Johnny Depp for Pirates of the Caribbean? I remember sort of sitting there and almost when you know, when it's the person you expect it to be, it can be a bit disheartening because it's like, oh no, it's who we expected. We like those dark horses.
And speaking of dark horses, we mentioned this at the beginning of the show. Have you been following The Traitors?
Well, I've been following all the vibes around it because, as you know, I'm more of a film than a TV person. But how can you escape it? But also, it's like those films have got the same premises, all those like the Knives Out films. They're all the same, but put all these people in a room and work out which one of them is the traitor.
And Chris, do you think you'd be a traitor or a faithful?
Well, of course, in a way, it's not for me to decide. But do you know what? I think people would not expect me to be the traitor. So that dark horses.
We've decided for you. So it will come on in